everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is one I've spoken about before and I'm finally getting around to recording it. So I'm going to be talking about this idea that you are broken. Now, this is such a common idea that people have about themselves. I see it so often. So I thought I would do a video where I can talk through this. So if you haven't seen my video talking about when I attempted to take my own life, and it's a bit of a weird video to be like promoting mid-video, but if you haven't seen that video, then I talk largely about my own past views of myself as broken and as a defective human being, and this is kind of touching on that a bit. So that's personal experience, which you can obviously go look at if you want to, but I want to talk about the kind of therapist's take on that mentality and where it can come from and how wrong it is. So that's today's video. I hope you enjoy it. I don't know if I've uploaded this yet, but I've done a video on emotional regulation, and that's going to link into this quite heavily because feelings of brokenness, they stem from somewhere. And this is why therapists will often ask you about your childhood experiences and stuff to work out where these thoughts and feelings that you may have come from. And the other thing that I find so fascinating in the world of mental health is that how we look at ourselves and how we look at other people can be so enormously different. Like, we can put so much blame on ourselves and so much self-judgment, and we can look at other people and go, well, that's just a response to what's going on in their lives and they're still wonderful people. But we can't seem to do that for ourselves sometimes. Like, some people can really, really struggle to do that for themselves. So this idea that you are defective or that you're some way broken or some way not good enough and all of this stuff, usually but not always, will stem from childhood experiences. Now, as I said in my video around emotional regulation, if you've never learned that it's okay to react to certain situations in an instinctive way, if you've never learned that that's okay, if you've never learned to emotionally regulate, and if you've been very focused on adapting your way of being to be acceptable for somebody else, this is where the defective and broken feelings can come in. So, for example, if you have a caregiver, or if you had a caregiver who had very strict boundaries on what was and wasn't acceptable to them and ways of being and ways of behaving, you tend to see people who feel like they have to act and behave a certain way to be acceptable. Kind of the basis of counselling training in this country is the person-centered approach. It was developed by Carl Rogers, and it's the idea that as a child you cannot emotionally regulate, as I covered in my previous video. So you just react to things in the way that is natural to a child. You know, you fall over, you cry, those types of things. And then when a caregiver or somebody else in a position of authority or some kind of power over you dictates how you should behave, how you should react, how you should be, you then start to feel like your natural way of being is not good enough. And that's when you can then develop these feelings of everybody else does this thing and can manage that thing, and internally I'm broken because I find that really difficult, or I can't meet those expectations, or I'm not good enough, or all of those types of things. Now, there's two things to bear in mind. First off, if you've never felt seen and you've never felt heard as a child, then you are likely going to feel that you are not good enough. And I've covered in a video before about why children need to be seen and heard and how important that is for them to feel that. Secondly, if you never learnt to regulate your emotions, then you're going to learn that certain behaviours, certain ways of being are also not acceptable. So at what point do you learn as a child that you are absolutely okay just as you are and that your reactions are natural to what's going on around you? You don't. So then what happens is people come to therapy and they sit in front of me and they say, I have all of this stuff going on and I shouldn't be feeling that way and I shouldn't be doing this and there's something wrong with me and all of this kind of stuff. They put additional pressure on themselves rather than just feeling able to feel how they feel. And it's almost like the first stage in therapy is to break that down and to make people know that it's okay to feel however they feel, and they're in a safe space where they can feel however they feel. And it may be that they've never experienced a safe space in their life to be able to just feel and it be okay. The other thing is that our brains are very, very good at establishing a core belief and then building on that core belief. So, for example, if you established as a child that you weren't good enough, then your brain will constantly look out for future confirmation that you're not good enough. Now, the reason why it does that is because if it holds that core belief that you aren't good enough, then later on in life, when people let you down, it doesn't hurt. You know, you're not good enough. You're a defective human being. Nobody wants to be friends with you anyway. So when these friendships might fail or whatever, then it doesn't hurt you as much as it would do if you actually thought that you were deserving of those friendships. So it's a protective system, and this is how the brain works. It's constantly trying to protect you. And it's incredible for doing that. It really is. But do you really want to spend the rest of your life thinking that you're not good enough for things, or questioning why people are friends with you, or not putting yourself out there and making new friends or meeting new people or trying new things because you don't think that you'll be accepted? And bigger than that, do you want to spend the rest of your life feeling like you're constantly trying to fit the expectations and needs of other people and have all that weight of societal expectations and family expectations and friends' expectations and all of that pressure, rather than just allowing yourself to be who you are? And obviously on this channel, I can't give out personal advice. I know I do have my Changing Perspectives series, but even with that, I'm not giving out personal advice. There are a multitude of places where you can go to seek support for your own mental health and your own well-being. But what I would say is this notion of being broken, nobody is born broken. You may have certain personality traits, you may have certain ways of being, but it is society that tells you that that's broken. You know, it's other people's expectations of you, other people's wants for you. It's other people's stuff that kind of comes into that makes you then believe that you are broken. And I know that that could be quite contested in a way. Like, some people could say, oh, well, these stereotypes of people are absolutely broken, or the people that do this must be absolutely broken. But it's only ever in the human society that we do that. I mean, obviously we don't know how the inner workings of animals work, but, you know, for example, if you look at a tree, when it grows funny, you don't look at it and go, oh, that tree must be broken because it's grown that way. You go, oh, well, the light's over there, so that tree has adapted to grow towards the light. It's not a broken tree. And I kind of feel that way about humans. Like, we adapt because of our environment, but there's nothing fundamentally broken about us. We're just different. I often think that we forget that we are part of nature. Human beings have a tendency to see ourselves as quite separate from it. Like, there is the nature that we walk on and that we interact with, and then there is us, and actually we're all together. So sometimes when I draw comparisons to nature, for me anyway, I find that helpful because we are nature. You know, we grew from nature. So looking at the way that a tree behaves, and we wouldn't judge a tree as being defective, but yet we judge ourselves as being defective, when effectively all we've done is adapt to the environment that we were put in. So yeah, I guess to go back to the broken mentality is, really, if you listed out the experiences that you've had in your life, is it any wonder that you feel the way that you do? If you are currently going through something that's really, really difficult, if you objectively write down what you are going through, what is it in that environment that you're currently going through, whether that be, you know, anxiety. We are currently in the middle of 2020, 21 stuff. People are isolated, people aren't being able to have the community interactions that they normally would have, people are stressed about work, people are stressed about money, people are stressed about housing and unemployment and the economy, people have lost loved ones, people's health has been affected, ability to exercise has diminished, people's access to coping mechanisms has diminished, people's access to friends has diminished, people are having to communicate in different ways. Like, that is just from this current situation with the pandemic that's going on at the moment. So just that alone is so much for an individual to have to manage and cope with, that however you are feeling with all of that going on is totally fine. Like, it's totally understandable for people to be at the brink of chaos in their mental health, which I know a lot of people are. It's totally understandable for people to feel completely alone and isolated. It's okay to feel sad with the way that your life is. You've had a lot of time to reflect over the past year. It's okay to feel sad about certain things. It's okay to have a load of regret right now. It's also okay to be incredibly happy if you're someone who struggles with social interaction. It's okay to be incredibly happy about that. There are a multitude of different ways you could currently be feeling, and I'm sure that if you had the ability to break down what you're currently going through, gave that to somebody else and said, experience this, and then they were angry, upset, sad, depressed, anxious, lashing out, angry, any of those things, you would understand. You could clearly say, yeah, it's a lot. But because it's ourselves, because we think that we should be able to manage more, because we put so much pressure on ourselves, we then feel broken. And nobody is broken. There is no broken. There are people who struggle. Usually that struggle is understandable. It's even more understandable if you never learn to regulate your own emotion and you don't have a lot of support. Or, like I said, at the moment, if your coping mechanisms have changed and life is a bit crazy, like struggling is okay. Feeling broken is okay, but it's not a fundamental truth. And I guess in this video, I just wanted to open a perspective, because I do hear so much that people feel like they're broken or they feel like they're defective. And being able to gain perspective on that is a huge amount of my time. That's how I spend most of my time. And it's so beneficial to be able to do that, to be able to objectively see that you aren't a broken human being and that it's okay to feel however you feel and there's no judgment. So that's why I wanted to cover that in today's video. I hope that that's been helpful. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to, then I'd really appreciate you subscribing to my channel, but there's no pressure whatsoever. And I will catch you in the next one.